Hey YouTube, it's Elisha. And I wanted to do a video response to an email that I got from a subscriber, Lex. She watches my videos with her partner, who is FTM transgender. They're currently in a long distance relationship, and she is wondering if it would be selfish to ask her partner to wait 6 months to start the transition because she worries about his safety and the lack of support he'll have where he's at transitioning. So, this is my answer. I wouldn't say it's selfish because you want to be there to be a rock for him, and you're worried about his safety and his support system out there where he's at, which is understandable for anybody. Like you would expect that from a partner in a long distance relationship where you don't have any support where you're currently at and you want to start transition. It's very admirable about you to be worried about those things. But you have to realize that his situation where he's found a clinic and he's found the resources already, it's a hard pill to swallow to change your mind and say, well, I'm not going to go through with it at this time. I had that similar experience. When I was getting out of the Navy, I had decided that I wanted to start T a month before I got out. And I had talked to another trans guy who had been in the Navy. He started 3 months before he got out. And he had given me a contact at a clinic, a therapist that had a great sliding fee pay scale for her appointments, who worked with an endocrinologist directly at a clinic, who would start you on T. So the whole process could be done in 1 month. And I could be on T, depending on how long it took my labs to come back. And I was ready to do it. But then my mother asked me about harvesting my eggs because she would really like to have biological grandchildren from me. And I decided to wait and see how that would work. When I got out of the Navy, I came home and I was in Seattle. Well, not Seattle, but near Seattle for 3 weeks. And then I went to see my current at the time in Virginia for a month. So for 3 weeks, I did research on egg harvesting, which yielded that I would not be able to do it because I couldn't afford it. It was very expensive, and then the VA does not do egg harvesting. So I would not be able to have the VA harvest my eggs for free, and I couldn't afford to do it at a private clinic. So here I am now. It's the end of June, and now it's about to be July, and I'm going to spend a month in Virginia. So I'm not going to start T in Virginia and then have to come back here and transfer everything. So I had to wait all the way till August. So I get back in August and start all my VA stuff. Get an appointment with the doctor to start my entrance into the VA program. They're like, yes, we do HRT. We have endos in Seattle that you can go see. And all they require is a letter from your therapist. Okay, so I got a therapist. And I basically started going to therapy, get my letter. So now it's around September that I finally have, the letter. So I set up an appointment. My first appointment gets canceled because my doctor gets sick. My second appointment, I end up canceling because my current was there, and the time that it would have taken out of our small visit before she would have went on deployment, I didn't want to sacrifice. So I made the sacrifice to wait 10 more days before basically 14 days before my appointment. So here we are at the end of November, and now I'm finally going to see my therapist. Well, going with the therapist letter to see the doctor. So the doctor ends up saying, great, we'll take blood today, and your blood work will come back in 3 days, and then I'll send your prescription to Stroheckers in Portland. They'll call you, secure payment, because I didn't have insurance at the time. And we will wait for the tea to arrive at your house. And then you can come in for a nurse's appointment, which are free. I'll have you sign some papers, and then she'll assist you with your first shot. So I went from May, I was planning on starting in May, to December, which is 7 months. 7 months is a long time. And you build up a lot of dysphoria, especially when it was kind of like my dysphoria got worse because I had the resources in my hands. Like, I was already seeing a therapist, but this other therapist was only going to require 2 visits that were going to be very cheap. And then I would go to the endo probably the same day I got my letter, and then wait a week, and then start tea. So here I was with I had already made contact with the therapist and everything, and I shut it down because of, something someone else was proposing to me. And during those 7 months that I waited, I built up a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger at myself for allowing myself to be talked out of starting my transition when I wanted to. Do I want biological children? Not really. It would be nice if someone was going to pay for my eggs to be harvested and stored. Yeah, that would be amazing. But even now, I'm not really torn up about it. Any children that my future wife has will be my children, regardless of whose DNA they carry. They'll be mine. So it's a tough situation. The dysphoria will get worse. It will get bad when you were so close. And for your situation with your boyfriend, it will be hard because he doesn't have that support. Like, even though I was waiting and I got in some arguments with my family, they were still supportive and they were still here to basically try to help me out. It got bad. Zoloft. Bad. I got on Zoloft for issues of depression related to the loss of my grandmother while I was out to sea and unable to come home to say goodbye or for the funeral. And also because I wasn't able to transition. It was just a lot of stress and a lot of pain associated with it. It's bad. I went through suicidal thoughts and self-harming thoughts during that 7 months. And it got to the point where I didn't like talking because I didn't like my voice. I didn't like looking in the mirror. Taking showers were ridiculously crazy because, I didn't like coming out of my room. Became very antisocial, very just drawn in. And that 8 months was the darkest time in my life because I was dealing with losing my grandmother and never really being able to grieve because I was on deployment and still working every day. And then being so close to what I wanted and not getting it. And being stuck as female. And then having a trans guy whose parents had kicked him out living with us, who was already on T and going through the changes and seeing his changes every day, seeing his facial hair growing and seeing, his voice changing and seeing his face changing and how happy he was with his transition and being, so far away from mine. I think that what you should do is communicate your feelings to him. All your concerns, all your worries, and all of the reasons that you want him to wait. But you have to realize that it's going to be hard to wait, especially because he has all the resources. And for anyone who's asking their boyfriend to wait, it's going to be hard because especially if they have the resources. And you have to realize that waiting, it's not just waiting 6 months. It's going to be waiting 7 or 8. Excuse me, because when they get back, they're going to have to start the therapy and everything. And even if you have all that lined up, it still takes time. And it's going to take money, and it's going to take longer than just 6 months. It's very admirable to have concerns and to be worried and to want to be there to support your boyfriend through this transition, or your girlfriend if you're dating someone who's transitioning to female. It's very admirable to be there and to say you're going to be supportive. That is a great thing to have. But like I said, I understand that you're going through a transition too, because my family is. My friends are not nearly the same as what I'm going through, but they're going through a transition nonetheless, and so are you. But you have to consider all those factors. How will he take it not transitioning for 6 more months, especially being so close? And how will you be there to support him when it's a long distance relationship? You have to look at that. You really do. Do I regret waiting? No. Because I believe that everything happens in the time that it is supposed to happen. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. So I believe that my transition happened when it was, my starting testosterone happened when it was supposed to. But at the time, a lot of days I would think I should have just started T in May like I said I was going to. Why didn't I start T already? I would be 5 months into my transition. Why didn't I start T already? I would have so many changes. I would have facial hair. I would have had this. I would have had that. I could be changing my gender marker and everything. Like, I could have done those things before starting testosterone, but I didn't have the money to. And then it would have been, finding a job would be so much more easy if I could just have changed my gender marker and already be passing as male. I wouldn't have to go through transitioning on the job, which in my case hasn't been bad, but at the time when I was unemployed, that was something I was really concerned about. How do I go and apply for a job and people see me as a lesbian and then start working there, and gradually they see me transitioning to male? That was a big thing that worried me a lot too. And all those types of things. There were a lot of times when me and my mom would get into an argument about something or other, and I would just think, why didn't I do it in May? Why did I let her talk me out of it and talk me into harvesting my eggs? I never wanted children. I never wanted this. I never wanted that. There were a lot of times when I thought that, and a lot of times when I was upset and I was angry. And there were a lot of nights I cried myself to sleep, and there were a lot of days where I would just be in this like zombie-like state where I wasn't eating and I was just sleeping a lot, or on Tumblr or on YouTube, doing more damage to myself by looking at all these people's transitions and thinking that could be me, you know. So you have to think about that. But honestly, Lex, I would communicate all those feelings if I were in your shoes. You are never wrong for how you feel about a situation. Your feelings are your feelings. People might say, oh, that's fucked up to feel that way, or it's fucked up to say that. But that's how you feel. And it's only fucked up because of someone else's perception, or because of what society makes us think, you know. And I'm not trying to play devil's advocate or anything, but if that's how you feel, you have to be honest and true to yourself and your feelings. Don't not convey your feelings. That's double negative, but whatever. You know, don't keep it bottled up. Don't keep it to yourself. All that's going to cause is more issues. You need to tell him everything you're feeling. Tell him why you're feeling it, and tell him what you plan to do to help him through this time should he decide not to transition. But then you also need to have that plan on what you will do should he decide to transition anyway. But don't sit here and beat yourself up about whether or not you're selfish. Your concerns and your feelings are your concerns and your feelings. And the fact that you're willing to stand by him through this is amazing. You know, I've had people tell me they would, and they are not here now. But that's what it is. But you have to be open and honest. Communication during a transition is the most important thing. I've had someone shut down communication on me, and that really sucks. So what you need to do is honestly tell him what it is and why it is that you feel this way, why you want him to wait, what you think the benefits will be. And you guys need to talk about that, and then talk about what the support is going to be like, because he's so far away with no support system, and the dysphoria is going to start piling up and coming down on him even harder if he decides not to. So you need to have a plan of action, of some type of plan on what is going to happen and how you guys are going to be able to, get through it. Maybe therapy, or, maybe some sort of gender therapy that he can go to where he's talking to a therapist about his dysphoria weekly or something. But don't feel bad about the way you feel. And don't, keep it in. You might hear a lot of people say that's selfish or whatever. So what? That's how you feel. And it's only selfish if, in my opinion, it's only selfish if you say, I don't want you to transition there. And if you decide to, I'm not going to stick around. That's when it's selfish. When you give someone an ultimatum about something that concerns them, that they need to survive, that would be selfish. But if you're willing to talk it out and be there no matter what, it's not selfish. You just have to make sure that you get everything off your chest. No matter how minute the thought is, or no matter how it's going to sound, you have to say it. Use tact, but say it. And really, really be, really be in his corner. But I just wanted to make a video because I didn't know. I mean, I'm pretty good at writing and whatnot, but I didn't want to, I thought that there might be other people out there who are going through this same thing. And I want to share my experience with someone asking me to wait. And I'm not resentful or angry at my mother in any way whatsoever for asking me to wait and me doing it. But when my dysphoria got me, dysphoria is a monster. I know my mother loves me to death, and she wanted me to harvest my eggs so I could have biological children for myself and have that connection with the child and have something that was a piece of me to pass on as a man, to be a father to children that are biologically mine. And I know that it was the best intentions involved. But when I was dysphoric, or there was an argument about something related to my transition, pictures, or whatever, none of that mattered that she was doing it for me. It was more so, I should have done it. Why did I listen to her about something that concerns me? Dysphoria is a monster. It will start out with, gosh, I hate my chest, or why did I have to be born female, and cause you to be resentful of other people who are transitioning, or people who are born cis, or people who say they understand but they possibly can't because they've never been through that situation, or resentful of people who are on T that you see, or envious, and it just turns into this huge thing where you're just mad at the world. So you really have to be open with him, and I want you to take the time to have that conversation and just get it all out. I know I'm rambling and whatnot, and I'm sorry about that, but it's just kind of bringing up a lot of things that I have not discussed with my mother yet, because we've decided to just sometimes not discuss certain things because the wounds are still too fresh. And now that I'm on T, I'm not upset or having dysphoria about those things anymore. But there are days when um, it's kind of like, geez, like here I am moving into 6 weeks on T, and I could be 7 months on T, could be 8 months on T, you know. So sometimes I do think that, but I just think, well, I'm on T now. I try to stay with the positive feelings, but when I wasn't on T and I had waited, I was definitely thinking that a lot. So, Lex, if you have any more questions, you can send me an email. I'm going to email you too about some other stuff that's a little more personal that I didn't want to put in the email. I mean, in the video. And if anybody else has questions about this situation or about my experience with delaying my transition to make other people comfortable with the outcome or for other people's needs, hit me up, because that's one thing that I haven't really talked about too much, is how I did make that choice to delay my transition. And, you might be facing that as well. And I would love to help you out with any advice or just to be here to listen. In the description will be my email, my Tumblr, and you can put comments on YouTube. But if you email me, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. The only way it won't be pretty much right away is if I'm working or making a video like I am right now. Sorry, Lex, that the email's going to be pretty late. But yeah, hit me up. Thank you, Lex, for bringing up this topic because it needs to be discussed. And much love to everybody out there who's transitioning or waiting to transition or just now coming into their own and accepting that they are transgender. Much love. I wish you all positivity and all the best success. Peace.